The first thing I heard when I woke up was my daughter-in-law telling the surgeon I wasn't worth saving. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I couldn't move, couldn't open my eyes. The anesthesia held me somewhere between unconscious and aware, trapped in my own body while voices floated above me like I was already gone. Dr. Holt, I need to be realistic here. That was Marlene. Sharp voice, boardroom confident. Aaron's medical expenses are already straining company resources. If the prognosis is uncertain, we need to consider whether aggressive intervention is the responsible choice. My heart monitor beeped steadily. I could hear it, could feel the oxygen mask against my face. But I couldn't move a finger to let them know I was listening. Mrs. Cole, your father-in-law's condition is serious but treatable. Dr. Holt's voice was measured, professional. We're talking about a routine procedure to address the complications from his cardiac episode. Without it, he won't survive the week. I understand that, Marlene said, but Aaron is 56. He's been working manual labor for decades. His body is worn down. We're a small company. These costs add up. There was a pause. When Dr. Holt spoke again, his tone had changed, colder. Are you suggesting we don't proceed with life-saving treatment because of cost? I'm suggesting we be practical, Marlene replied. He's a technician. We can hire another technician. What we can't afford is prolonged medical liability. A technician, not co-owner, not the man who built the equipment systems that made the company viable. Not Aaron Cole, who put his name on the partnership papers 23 years ago and never once asked for recognition. Just a technician. Mrs. Cole, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Dr. Holt's voice was tight now. I'll be performing the procedure within the hour. If you have concerns about billing, take them up with hospital administration. Footsteps, the doctor leaving, then another set of footsteps, heavier, entering the room. Jesus, Marlene. That was Grant Ellery, my lawyer, my friend for 30 years. What the hell are you doing? Managing resources, Marlene said, no shame in her voice whatsoever. Something Tyler and I have to do since Aaron insists on staying involved in physical work at his age. This was bound to happen. Bound to happen. He had a heart episode because he was working a double shift covering for 2 guys who called in sick. Your guys. He didn't have to do that. He chose to. Because you cut staffing to boost margins. Because we're running a business, not a charity. I heard something click. Subtle. Electronic. Are you recording this? Marlene's voice went sharp. Hospital policy, Grant said smoothly. I'm here on company business, partnership documentation. Everything in this room is part of the medical record. That was a lie. Grant was recording because Grant knew exactly what kind of person Marlene was. He'd warned me about her 6 months after Tyler brought her home, said she looked at the company the way a contractor looks at a house before demolition. I should have listened. Fine, Marlene said. Record whatever you want. The fact remains that Aaron is an expense we can't afford right now. If he survives this, we need to have a serious conversation about his role going forward. His role? Grant's voice was flat. You mean his ownership? I mean his capacity to contribute. Tyler and I have been carrying operational responsibilities for 3 years while Aaron plays mechanic in the corner. It's not sustainable. Marlene, Aaron owns 49% of this company. Tyler owns 42%. You own nothing. You manage operations because Aaron and Tyler allow it. Numbers on paper, she said dismissively. Tyler and I make the decisions that matter. Aaron just wants to tinker with equipment and pretend he's still relevant. When he wakes up, if he wakes up, we're going to have a conversation about transition planning. Transition planning? Retirement. Buyout. Whatever you want to call it. He's a liability now. The monitor beeped. My heart rate steady. They had no idea I could hear every word. I'll make sure Aaron gets your message, Grant said quietly. Every word of it. Good. Tyler will back me on this. He knows it's the right move. I'm sure he will. Footsteps, Marlene leaving. Then Grant's voice close to my ear, barely a whisper. I know you're in there, Aaron. Don't react. Don't move. Just focus on recovering. I'll handle the rest. His hand squeezed my shoulder once, then he was gone. I lay there in the semi-darkness behind my eyelids and let the truth settle into my bones. My son's wife wanted me gone, not just out of the company, actually gone. She'd stood in my hospital room and argued against saving my life because I was a waste of money, and my son, Tyler, would back her on it. The anesthesia pulled me under again, but this time I didn't fight it. I needed to think, needed to plan, needed to be very, very careful about what happened next, because Marlene Shaw was about to learn what it meant to underestimate a man who'd spent 30 years building things from nothing. 3 days later, I opened my eyes for real. Dr. Holt was checking my vitals, making notes on a tablet. When he saw me looking at him, he nodded. "Welcome back, Mr. Cole. You gave us a scare." My throat was dry. Voice came out rough. "How long?" 72 hours since surgery. You're stable now. We had to go in and clear some blockages, but you came through clean. You'll need rest and physical therapy, but full recovery is expected." I nodded slowly, playing confused, weak. "My family?" "Your son was here yesterday. Your daughter-in-law has been handling paperwork with administration. I'll bet she has." "They'll be glad you're awake," Dr. Holt said, but his tone suggested otherwise. He knew what she'd said, knew what she'd tried to do. "I'll let them know." 20 minutes later, Marlene walked in. Not Tyler. Marlene. She wore a gray suit, hair pulled back, expression professional and distant. She looked at me the way you'd look at a quarterly report that came in under budget. "Aaron, you're awake." No relief in her voice, just acknowledgement. "The doctor says you'll recover." "Looks like it." "Good. That's good." She pulled a chair closer but didn't sit. Stayed standing, stayed above me. "We need to talk about what happens next." "Next?" "You're going to need time off, extended time. And frankly, Aaron, this is a wake-up call. You're not 25 anymore. Working the floor, pulling double shifts, it's not appropriate for someone in your position." "My position?" "Tyler and I have been discussing it. We think it's time you stepped back from day-to-day operations. Focus on recovery, maybe consider retirement options." I let the silence stretch. Let her think I was too weak to process what she was saying. "I built those systems," I said finally. "Every piece of equipment in that shop, I installed it or trained someone to maintain it." "And we're grateful," Marlene said, smooth as glass. "But the company has evolved. We have younger technicians now, people who can handle the physical demands. You've earned the right to step back." "Step back?" "Take a consulting role. We'll work out the details with Grant. Something that respects your contributions without putting your health at risk." She was talking about removing me, not from the floor, from ownership, from authority. "Where's Tyler?" I asked. Something flickered in her expression. "He's managing the shop? We can't both be away?" "He couldn't take an hour to see his father in the hospital." "He was here yesterday, Aaron. You were unconscious." She glanced at her watch. "I need to get back. We have a production deadline. I'll have Grant reach out about the transition planning." Transition planning. Same words she'd used when she thought I couldn't hear. "Marlene." She paused at the door. "Thank you for coming." She nodded, already thinking about something else, and left. I waited until her footsteps faded down the hallway. Then I reached for the phone Grant had left on the bedside table. He'd told me it was clean, secure, no company access. I dialed. He picked up on the first ring. "Aaron." "She just left." "I know. I'm in the parking lot. She didn't see me." "She wants me out, Grant." "I know that too. I have the recording." Her exact words. "A waste of money." "The surgeon's refusal. All of it." "Is it admissible?" "In court? Maybe. In a board meeting?" "Absolutely." "But Aaron, we need to be smart about this. She's already positioning Tyler against you. If we move too fast, she'll claim you're mentally unfit or emotionally compromised." "I'm neither." "I know, but she'll argue it anyway. We need documentation, patterns, evidence that this isn't one bad conversation, it's systematic undermining." "How long?" "Couple weeks, maybe a month." "Can you handle being underestimated that long?" I looked at the hospital ceiling. White tiles, fluorescent lights, everything sterile and cold. "I've been underestimated for 3 years, Grant. I can handle another month." "Good. Don't confront her. Don't confront Tyler. Act grateful. Act confused. Let them think you're beaten." "I am beaten," I said quietly. "I just haven't fallen down yet." Grant was silent for a moment. "There's something else you should know." I pulled the partnership agreements. "The original structure." "And?" "You still hold controlling voting rights through the primary equity account, not the operational account, the ownership account, the one that predates Tyler's stake." "I know that." "Does Marlene?" I thought about it, about how she talked to me like hired labor, how she'd scheduled meetings without including me, how she acted like Tyler's 42%, and her operational authority were all that mattered. "No," I said slowly. "I don't think she does." Then we have leverage she doesn't know exists. And Aaron? That account controls the company's liquidity reserves. Payroll, procurement, everything flows through it because you set it up that way 20 years ago. Before Tyler was even in the business. Exactly. If you move that account, her entire operational structure collapses. She'd have authority over nothing. I closed my eyes, felt my heartbeat steady and strong despite everything. Don't move anything yet, I said. Let her think she's winning. You're sure about this? I'm sure about one thing, Grant. My daughter-in-law stood in this room and told a doctor not to save my life. That's not a misunderstanding. That's not stress. That's who she is. Then we do this right. Legal, clean, no shortcuts. No shortcuts, I agreed. Just the truth. I hung up and lay back against the pillows. Somewhere down the hall, machines beeped. Nurses moved between rooms. Life continued, indifferent to whether I lived or disappeared. But I wasn't going anywhere. Not until Marlene Shaw understood exactly what she'd tried to do, and exactly what it would cost her. They released me after another week. Tyler picked me up, which surprised me. He pulled up in his truck, not the company vehicle Marlene usually drove, and helped me into the passenger seat without saying much. We were halfway to my house before he spoke. You look better. Feel better. Good, that's good. He kept his eyes on the road. Marlene said you two talked about the future. She mentioned transition planning. Right, yeah. He rubbed his jaw. Look, Dad, she's not wrong. You scared us. Working those kinds of hours at your age, it's not safe. I was covering for short staff. I know, but that's not your responsibility anymore. We have supervisors for that. You should be focusing on higher level stuff. Strategic planning, not crawling around on the factory floor. I watched the highway signs pass. We were taking the long route, I realized. Tyler was stalling. How's the shop running? I asked. Fine. Good, actually. We landed that contract with Morrison Industrial. Big one. Marlene negotiated the terms. That's great. Yeah, she's good at that stuff. The business side, numbers, she sees angles I don't. She's smart, I agreed. She is. He hesitated. She thinks you don't respect her, the work she does. I respect competence. But you don't respect her. I let that sit between us, watched the trees slide past. Tyler, do you know why I still work the floor? Because you're stubborn. Because I like knowing how things actually work. Not the spreadsheet version, the reality. When a machine breaks at 2 a.m, I know what's wrong before the diagnostic runs. That's not something you get from strategic planning meetings. Nobody's saying your experience doesn't matter. Marlene is. He pulled into my driveway and put the truck in park, but didn't shut off the engine. She's trying to protect the company, Dad. We're in a growth phase. Big contracts, new equipment, expanding the crew. That means higher expenses, higher risk. We can't afford to be sentimental about roles. Sentimental. About who does what, where people fit. The company has to come first. I looked at my son, really looked at him, at 34 years old, good man, decent husband, but somewhere along the way, he'd stopped thinking for himself. Tyler, who owns this company? We both do, you and me. That's right, not Marlene, you and me. She's my wife, what's mine is hers. Not according to the partnership agreement. She manages operations because we allow it. She has no equity stake. His jaw tightened. Why are you bringing this up? Because I want you to remember that when she starts talking about my role, she's talking about removing a co-owner. Not an employee, not a consultant, an owner. Nobody's trying to remove you. Then what do you call asking me to retire? Asking you to take care of yourself. I opened the door and climbed out slowly, carefully. My chest still ached. Every movement reminded me how close I'd come. Thanks for the ride, I said. Dad. I paused. Just think about what she said, okay? About stepping back. It's not about pushing you out. It's about keeping you alive. I nodded and closed the door. He drove away, and I stood in my driveway watching the taillights disappear. Keeping me alive. That would be more convincing if his wife hadn't argued against doing exactly that. Inside, my house was exactly as I'd left it. Mail piled on the kitchen counter. Coffee mug in the sink. Everything frozen in the moment before my heart decided to stop cooperating. I ignored all of it and went straight to my office. The filing cabinet in the corner held 30 years of business documents. Contracts, permits, tax records, partnership agreements. I'd kept everything because my father taught me that paper was the only proof that mattered when people started rewriting history. I pulled the partnership folder and spread the documents across my desk. Original incorporation. Aaron Cole, founder and primary shareholder. 49%. First Amendment, adding Tyler Cole at age 25, 42%. Second Amendment, creating a managing partner role. No equity attached, just operational authority, subject to approval by majority ownership. That was Marlene's position. On paper, she had no power at all, but paper only mattered if people paid attention to it. I kept reading, found the clause I was looking for buried in Section 7. Primary equity account, established at incorporation, shall maintain controlling voting rights in all matters requiring shareholder approval, regardless of subsequent equity distribution. Said account shall be held solely by the founding shareholder and remain non-transferable during the lifetime of said shareholder. I'd written that clause myself with a lawyer who'd since retired, built it in as protection against exactly this kind of situation. Back then, I was worried about hostile investors. Didn't think I'd need it against family. My phone buzzed. Grant. You home? Yeah. Good. Don't come to the shop tomorrow. Call in sick. You need rest anyway. Grant, what's going on? Shane called me. Marlene held an all-hands meeting this afternoon. Announced you're stepping back from operations due to health concerns. Said it's temporary, but everyone knows what temporary means? Shane Porter. 29, good technician. One of the few guys who still asked my opinion on equipment setup. Did she say when I'd be back? She said you'd be transitioning to an advisory role. Consulting basis, no regular schedule. That's not her decision to make. Aaron, she's making it anyway. She told the crew you agreed to it, said you and Tyler discussed it today. I thought about the truck ride, Tyler's careful words. He didn't defend me, did he? Grant's silence was answer enough. I'm pulling the agreements tomorrow, I said. All of them. I want you to audit every financial transfer from the past 3 years, every contract Marlene signed, every operational decision that should have required my approval. That'll take time. We have time. She thinks I'm beaten. Let her think it. And if she moves faster than we expect? I looked at the partnership documents spread across my desk. At the clause that gave me control she didn't know existed. Then we move faster. Aaron, are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. Tyler's going to have to choose sides. Tyler chose sides the day he married her. I'm just making it official. I hung up and sat in my office as the sun set outside. The house was quiet. No family sounds, no voices. Just me and 30 years of paperwork proving I'd built something that people now wanted to take away. My phone buzzed again. A message from Tyler. Marlene says we should have dinner this weekend. All 3 of us. Talk things through. I didn't respond. Let them wonder if I was too weak to fight back. Let them plan their next move. Because while they were busy underestimating me, I'd be doing what I did best. Building something they couldn't see until it was too late to stop. I stayed away from the shop for 10 days. Let them think I was recovering. Let them think I was considering their offer. Let them get comfortable with my absence. Grant visited every other day, bringing documents I'd requested. Partnership amendments, financial statements, internal emails he'd quietly requested from the company server using his administrative access as corporate counsel. The picture they painted was clear. Marlene had been systematically erasing my role for 18 months. She'd reassigned maintenance responsibilities I used to handle, scheduled production meetings without me, rerouted operational decisions through herself and Tyler, created a management structure that treated me like an hourly contractor, not a co-owner, and Tyler had let her do it. Look at this, Grant said, spreading a budget presentation across my kitchen table. From 6 months ago, she presented it to a potential investor group without your knowledge. I scanned the document. Company overview, growth projections, management structure. My name appeared once, under technical staff. Not leadership, not ownership, technical staff. She showed this to investors? 3 different firms. Shane heard about it from one of the reps who toured the facility. Asked him where the other owner was. Shane told him you were on site every day. The rep looked confused, said the presentation listed Tyler Cole as primary owner and Marlene Shaw as COO. That's fraud. It's misrepresentation, and it's grounds for removal from her management position, but only if we can prove she did it knowingly. She did it knowingly, Grant. Look at this document. She created it. We need more. A pattern. Multiple instances. Something that shows this wasn't a mistake or an oversight. I pulled another file from the stack Grant had brought. Internal emails. 3 months of correspondence between Marlene and Tyler discussing company strategy. My name appeared in 2 contexts. Problem and solution. Problem. Aaron's medical expenses impacting Q3 margins. Solution. Transition Aaron to part-time advisory role, reduce benefits package. Problem: Aaron's resistance to new operational structure. Solution: Emphasize health concerns. Position transition as protective measure. They'd been planning this since before my heart episode, maybe longer. She wanted me gone before I got sick, I said quietly. Looks like it. The health crisis just gave her an excuse to accelerate. I set the emails aside and stared at them for a long moment. Each message was a small betrayal. Each decision a step toward erasing me completely. I could trace the pattern backward, month by month, watching my role diminish in their eyes until I became nothing more than an obstacle to their vision of the company. How long do you think she's been planning this? I asked. Grant pulled out another folder, older documents. Based on what I'm seeing, at least 2 years. Maybe since she first took the operations role. She saw an opportunity and started positioning herself as the real authority. Tyler went along because it was easier than questioning her. Or because he agreed with her. Maybe. But Aaron, look at the language in these early emails. She's coaching him, teaching him to see you as a problem that needs managing. This isn't Tyler suddenly deciding you're in the way. This is Marlene slowly convincing him you are. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to think my son had been manipulated rather than willingly complicit, but wanting something didn't make it true. Either way, the result is the same. The result is what we make it, Grant said. He pulled out the partnership agreement and opened it to page 7. Which brings us to this. The primary equity account. Tell me exactly what it controls. Grant opened his laptop and pulled up the company's financial structure. It's the backbone of everything. Payroll processing runs through it. Procurement, operating expenses, insurance, all the capital that keeps the shop running day to day. Can the company operate without it? For maybe a week, after that checks start bouncing, suppliers stop shipping, it would force an emergency board meeting. And legally, I can move that account? You established it at founding. You're the sole signatory. Tyler has access to operational accounts, but not the primary equity account. That was deliberate, right? I wanted one account that couldn't be touched by anyone except me, in case something went wrong. Grant nodded slowly, understanding. You were protecting yourself even back then, before Tyler joined, before any of this. My father taught me that paper and planning were the only things you could trust in business. People change, circumstances change, but contracts and bank accounts don't lie. Smart man. He lost a company once because he trusted the wrong partner, made me promise I'd never make the same mistake. So when I founded this place, I built in protections. Never thought I'd need them against my own son. Grant closed the laptop and looked at me directly. Then yes, you can move it, freeze it, transfer it to a holding structure, whatever you want. And there's nothing Marlene or Tyler can do to stop you because neither of them has authority over it. I stared at the financial flowchart on Grant's laptop. Every operational function tied back to that one account. The account Marlene had forgotten existed because she'd never had access to it. The account that had been sitting there for 23 years, invisible to anyone who didn't understand the original company structure. If I move it, she loses everything. Operationally? Yes. She'd have authority over departments with no budget, a title with no function. She could still make decisions, but she couldn't execute any of them. No purchasing power, no payroll authority, no operational capital. She'd be a manager in name only. And Tyler? Tyler has equity stake, but no operational control unless you grant it. He'd still own 42% of a non-functional company until the situation resolved. He'd have to come to you for everything. Every decision, every dollar, every move. I sat back and let the implications settle. This wasn't just removing Marlene. This was restructuring the entire power dynamic. This was showing both of them that ownership wasn't a formality, it was control. Real, functional, absolute control. How long would it take to set up? The account transfer? I can have it ready in a week. But Aaron, you need to understand what this means. You're not just removing Marlene. You're forcing Tyler to choose between his wife and his father, between his marriage and his business. That's a choice that doesn't undo itself. He already chose. Not publicly, not irrevocably. Once you do this, there's no walking it back. No reconciliation, no pretending it was a misunderstanding. You're declaring war on your daughter-in-law in front of everyone who works for you. Good. I'm tired of walking carefully around people who wanted me gone. Grant studied me for a long moment. You've changed. 3 weeks ago, you would have tried to find a compromise. I would have talked to Tyler privately, would have given them a chance to correct course. 3 weeks ago, I hadn't heard my daughter-in-law tell a surgeon I was a waste of money. That changes things. I know, I'm just making sure you know what you're starting. I looked at the documents spread across my table. The evidence of betrayal, the paper trail of erasure, The documented proof that the company I'd built was being taken from me one decision at a time by people who thought I was too weak or too foolish to notice. Set up the meeting, I said. 2 weeks from today, I want everyone there, full board, all department heads, Shane and the crew leads, everyone who has a stake in how this company operates. Public reckoning. Public truth. Let everyone hear what she said, what she did. Let them decide who belongs in leadership and who's been lying to them. Grant nodded and made notes. What about Tyler? What about him? Do you tell him first? Give him a chance to step back before it goes public? Give him an opportunity to remove Marlene himself? Save face? Keep this from becoming a family war? I thought about my son, about the truck ride home from the hospital, about how he'd looked at me and said the company had to come first, about the emails where he'd discussed my medical expenses like budget line items, about how he'd stood by while his wife rewrote my role into nothing. No, I said. He gets the same notice everyone else does. 72 hours, formal and professional. If he wants to stand with her, let him do it in front of everyone who works for us. Let him explain to Shane and the crew why his wife's version of leadership includes arguing against saving my life. Grant packed his files slowly, deliberately. At the door, he paused and turned back. Aaron, I've known you 30 years. I watched you build this company from nothing. I've seen you handle equipment failures, financial crises, personnel problems, regulatory nightmares. I've never seen you go after someone like this. Never seen you be this cold. I've never had someone argue I should be left to fade away. I know. Just remember, when this is done, you still have to live with the outcome. Tyler's your son. That doesn't change, no matter what happens in that meeting. Tyler stopped being my son when he let his wife erase me from the company I built. Now he's just a shareholder who needs to remember who established this business and who's been allowed to participate in it. Grant shook his head slowly. You don't mean that? Don't I? He sat there while she removed my name from presentations, while she scheduled meetings without me, while she told investors I didn't exist. He knew what she was doing, and he did nothing. That's not a son. That's a co-owner who forgot where his stake came from. He's still your family by birth. Family ties don't excuse betrayal. They make it cut deeper. Grant left, and I sat in my kitchen as evening settled outside. The house was quiet, empty. The same silence I'd been living in for 3 years while my family quietly erased me. But the silence was different now. It wasn't loneliness. It wasn't defeat. It was the quiet before action, the stillness before the storm. I spent the rest of the evening reviewing every document one more time, making notes, highlighting key passages, preparing for questions I knew would come, building the case that would dismantle Marlene's authority piece by piece in front of everyone who'd believed her version of reality. At midnight, I made a list of everything I needed to say, everything I needed to show, the order of revelations, the timing of evidence, the exact moment to play the hospital recording so it would have maximum impact. This wasn't rage. This wasn't emotion. This was planning. The same meticulous, careful planning I'd used to build the company in the first place. The same attention to detail that had made every system work, every process function, every operation succeed. Marlene thought she understood business, thought she understood power. She was about to learn the difference between managing operations and actually owning something. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, Marlene Shaw would walk into a board meeting thinking she controlled everything that mattered, and I'd show her exactly what control looked like when the real owner decided to use it. The notification went out on a Tuesday morning. Formal email to all board members and department heads. Emergency meeting scheduled for Friday at 9 a.m. Mandatory attendance. Agenda, company governance and ownership structure. Grant had drafted it carefully. No specifics, no accusations, just enough to make people nervous. I didn't go to the shop that week, stayed home, let them wonder, let the silence build, let the tension grow. The calls started within an hour of the notification. First was Shane. Mr. Cole, you all right? This meeting, it sounds serious. It is. I'll see you Friday. Anything I should know? You'll know everything Friday. Just be there. Then department heads, then board members. I let most calls go to voicemail. The ones I answered, I kept short. Professional. No details. By Wednesday, the shop was buzzing. Grant called to tell me production had slowed because people were distracted, speculating about what was coming. Let them speculate, I said. Friday, they'll have answers. Marlene called 6 times Tuesday, 8 times Wednesday. I didn't answer. Let her wonder. Let her panic. Let her scramble to prepare a defense when she didn't know what she was defending against. Tyler called once, late Wednesday night. Dad, what's happening? Marlene's losing her mind. She thinks you're trying to push her out. Friday, Tyler. No, not Friday. Now. Tell me now what's going on. I'm exercising my rights as primary shareholder to review company governance and management performance. That's all you need to know until the meeting. That's not all I need to know. She's my wife. If there's a problem with her work, I deserve to know before you ambush her in front of everyone. Ambush, that's an interesting word. What would you call it? Accountability. She's been operating without proper oversight for 3 years. Time to correct that. By humiliating her publicly? By showing everyone what she's actually been doing. There's a difference. Silence on the line. Then Tyler's voice, quieter. Dad, please. Whatever this is, we can handle it privately. Family meeting, just the 3 of us. Don't do this in front of the whole company. She made it public when she told investors I didn't exist. When she created presentations listing you as primary owner and me as technical staff. When she held meetings I wasn't notified about. She made this public. I'm just making sure everyone sees the truth. What truth? Friday. I hung up. Thursday morning, Grant came by with the final documents. Everything's ready, he said, setting a leather folder on my table. Transfer authorizations, board resolutions, the recording from the hospital, transcribed and notarized, Marlene's investor presentations with the misrepresentations highlighted, 3 years of internal emails showing systematic exclusion, timeline of decision-making that bypassed your authority, financial analysis showing her operational overreach. And the account? Oh, frozen as of this morning, I filed emergency action paperwork citing fiduciary concerns. The freeze holds through the board meeting. After that, you'll execute the transfer in front of everyone. Marlene knows? Her operational account stopped working at 8 a.m. Payroll tried to process. System rejected it. Procurement tried to place orders. System rejected those too. She's been calling me all day, 32 times so far. I haven't answered. Good. Aaron, she's not stupid. She knows something major is coming. She'll have prepared some kind of counter-narrative, some explanation for everything we're about to show. Let her try. Facts don't care about narratives. And Tyler? Called once. Asked what was going on. I told him he'd find out tomorrow. Grant opened the folder and laid out the documents in order. Hospital recording transcript, investor presentations, email threads, financial statements, partnership agreements, account structure diagrams. I've organized everything chronologically, he said. Start with the hospital recording. That establishes her character, her willingness to prioritize cost over life. Then show the investor presentations. That establishes a pattern of misrepresentation. Then the emails. That shows premeditation, planning, systematic exclusion. Finally, the account structure. That shows she never had the authority she claimed. How long will it take to present everything? Depends on interruptions. If she fights every point, could be 2 hours. If she stays quiet, maybe 45 minutes. She won't stay quiet. No, probably not. Which is fine. The more she talks, the more she'll incriminate herself. People who are innocent don't need to explain everything. They let the facts speak. I reviewed the documents one more time. Every page was clear. Every claim was documented. Every accusation had evidence. There was no wiggle room, no interpretation, no alternate explanation that made sense. Grant, if this goes wrong, it won't go wrong. You have controlling voting rights. You have documented cause. You have witnesses. You have recordings. And you have the one thing Marlene can't argue against, the truth, backed by paper. The truth didn't stop her before. That's because you let her operate in private. In closed meetings where only she and Tyler heard what was said. Tomorrow, everyone hears what she said in that hospital room. Everyone sees the documents she created. Everyone watches her try to explain why she systematically removed you from your own company. There's no spinning that when 50 people are watching. I closed the folder. My hands were steady. 3 weeks ago, they'd shaken from medication and weakness. Now they were rock solid. The tremor was gone. The uncertainty was gone. All that remained was clarity. How do you want to play it? Grant asked. Let her talk first. Let her make her case for why I should step down, why operational changes were necessary, why her management style was beneficial. Let her build her defense. Then we dismantle it piece by piece. She'll try to control the narrative. Make it about your health, your capacity, your inability to adapt to modern business practices. She'll paint herself as the progressive leader and you as the obstacle to growth. I know, let her. The further she goes, the harder she falls. Every claim she makes, we have documents that contradict it. Every justification she offers, we have evidence showing the real motive. She's going to hang herself with her own words. What about Tyler? What about him? He'll try to defend her. He's her husband. He'll feel obligated to support her, at least initially. He might even try to stop you from presenting everything. Then he'll fail. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a family discussion. This is a board meeting with a formal agenda. He can object all he wants. It won't change what gets presented. Grant stood and packed the documents back into the folder, leaving one copy on my table. Last chance. We can still pull back. Find a different solution. One that doesn't blow up your family in front of 50 witnesses. My family blew up when my daughter-in-law told a surgeon I was a waste of money. I'm just making sure everyone knows it happened. He nodded and headed for the door, paused with his hand on the knob. Aaron, tomorrow is going to change everything. The company, your relationship with Tyler, how everyone sees you. Once you do this, you can't take it back. You can't soften it. You can't pretend it was less serious than it was. You're going nuclear on your daughter-in-law in front of everyone you work with. Good. She went nuclear on me first. She just did it quietly, hoping no one would notice. Grant left, and I sat in my kitchen as evening settled outside. I spent Thursday night in my office reviewing every document one more time, making sure I understood every detail, every number, every clause, making sure I could answer any question, address any objection, counter any defense Marlene might attempt. By midnight, I had the entire financial structure memorized. The company's dependency on the primary equity account, the legal justification for every action I was about to take, the irrevocable nature of what came next, the specific language in the partnership agreement that gave me authority she'd forgotten existed. I made notes in the margins, anticipated objections, prepared responses. This wasn't going to be a presentation. It was going to be a prosecution, every piece of evidence building on the last, every revelation making the next one worse. At 1 a.m., I walked through the entire meeting in my mind, visualized every moment, Marlene's opening statement, the confident way she'd explain her decisions, the reasonable tone she'd use to make me sound irrational. Then the recording, the shock on faces around the table, the silence, then the documents, one after another, each one stripping away another layer of her credibility. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Tyler. Dad, we need to talk. Tomorrow. No, tonight. Marlene's freaking out. She says you froze the operational accounts, says Grant won't return her calls, says you're planning something. What's going on? You'll find out at the meeting. This is insane. You can't just freeze company accounts because you're upset about something. That's not how business works. That's not how partnerships work. I can when I'm the primary shareholder acting on fiduciary concerns. Fiduciary concerns? What does that even mean? That's just legal talk for you're mad and you're lashing out. It means your wife has been misrepresenting company ownership to investors. It means she systematically excluded me from operational decisions despite my ownership stake. It means she's created a management structure that violates the partnership agreement. And it means she argued against saving my life because I was a waste of money. Silence on the other end. Long, heavy silence. Dad, she was stressed. The hospital, the costs, the uncertainty. She meant every word. Grant recorded it. You'll hear it tomorrow. Every word, every calculation, every cold assessment of whether saving my life was financially viable. Recorded it? Jesus, Dad, that's a private conversation. That's between family and doctors. You can't just record people without their knowledge. In a hospital room where I was the patient, nothing about that was private. It's medical record territory. And even if it wasn't, the content matters more than the method. Your wife told a surgeon not to save my life. That's what happened. That's what you need to understand. You can't do this. You can't blow up the company, destroy my marriage, humiliate my wife in front of everyone because you're hurt. That's not leadership. That's revenge. Maybe it's both. Maybe revenge and justice look the same when the offense is bad enough. Dad, please. I'm asking you. I'm begging you. Don't do this. Whatever problems exist, we can solve them privately. Family meeting, mediation if necessary, but don't do this publicly. Don't destroy everything because you're angry. I'm not destroying everything, Tyler. I'm removing a manager who's been operating outside her authority. Big difference. She's my wife. Then you better decide what that means to you, because tomorrow you're going to have to choose her version of events or the documented truth, her explanations or the evidence, her future or the company's integrity. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that she told investors I didn't exist? Is it fair that she scheduled meetings without notifying me? Is it fair that she argued I should be left to fade away because medical treatment was too expensive? Where was fair when all that was happening? Silence again. I could hear him breathing. Could hear the conflict. I can't choose between you and her. he said finally. Then don't choose. Just watch tomorrow. Listen to everything. See all the evidence, then decide who's telling the truth. If you do this, Dad, I don't know if we can come back from it. I don't know if our relationship survives this. Our relationship ended when you let her erase me. Tomorrow just makes it official. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. Friday morning came cold and clear. I dressed carefully. Navy suit, white shirt, blue tie. The same outfit I'd worn when we'd signed the original partnership papers with Tyler. When he was 25 and eager and grateful for the opportunity. When he still respected what I'd built. When family still meant something. Symbolic, maybe, but symbols mattered. This wasn't just a business meeting. It was a reckoning. Grant picked me up at 8:15. Earlier than necessary, but I wanted to be first in the room. Wanted to watch everyone else arrive. Wanted to see their faces, read their concern, understand who was nervous and why. You ready? Grant asked. I've been ready since I woke up in that hospital bed. Tyler called me last night, 4 times, left messages, asking me to talk you out of this, asking me to find another way. What did you tell him? Nothing. I didn't call back. This is between you and him now. I'm just the lawyer making sure everything's legal. Good. We drove to the shop in silence. When we pulled into the parking lot, I saw both Tyler's truck and Marlene's car already there, parked side by side, early, preparing, planning their defense. Shane was standing near the entrance, smoking a cigarette. When he saw me, he straightened up, flicked the cigarette away. Mr. Cole, good to see you up and around, sir. Thanks, Shane. Whole crew's talking about this meeting. Nobody knows what's happening. A lot of speculation. Some guys think the company's being sold. Others think there's some kind of takeover happening. They'll know soon enough. Whatever it is, sir, most of us are glad you're back. Things have been different since you've been gone. Not better, just different. I nodded and walked inside. The conference room was already filling up. Board members arriving in small groups. Department heads checking their phones, looking worried. Senior technicians standing in the back, unsure why they'd been summoned. Tyler and Marlene sat at the far end of the table. Marlene looked sharp and composed, suit pressed, hair perfect, expression calm. She'd prepared. She was ready to fight. Tyler looked like he hadn't slept. Red eyes, wrinkled shirt. He was staring at the table, not looking at anyone. I took my seat at the opposite end. Grant sat beside me, leather folder closed in front of him. The room filled slowly. 52 people total. Everyone required. Everyone who would need to understand what came next. At exactly 9 a.m., Grant called the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming on short notice. This meeting has been called to address concerns regarding company governance and management authority. Aaron Cole, as primary shareholder and founding owner, has invoked his right to review operational decisions and management performance under Section 12 of the Partnership Agreement. Marlene leaned forward, hands folded on the table. Calm, professional. Before we begin, I'd like to state for the record that freezing operational accounts without notice is a hostile action that endangers company function and employee welfare. Payroll was disrupted. Vendor relationships were jeopardized. This kind of unilateral decision-making is exactly the type of unstable leadership behavior we need to address. Several heads nodded around the table. She was playing it well, making me look irrational, making herself look reasonable. Noted, Grant said calmly. However, emergency freezes are permitted under Section 12 of the Partnership Agreement when the primary shareholder identifies fiduciary concerns requiring immediate board review. What fiduciary concerns? Marlene's voice was steady. I've managed operations for 3 years with consistent growth, improved margins, and expanded contracts. What exactly are these mysterious concerns that require freezing the company's ability to function? We'll get to that. Aaron, you have the floor. I stood slowly. Looked around the room at people I'd worked with for years. Some of them since the beginning, some who'd been there when the shop was just me and 3 employees, others who'd joined during growth years, all of them watching, waiting, trying to understand what was happening. 3 weeks ago, I said quietly, I had a heart episode and was rushed to emergency surgery. While I was unconscious, unable to speak or move, my daughter-in-law stood in my hospital room and told the surgeon not to proceed with life-saving treatment because I was a waste of money. The room went absolutely silent. No movement, no sound, just 52 people processing what I'd just said. That's not what happened, Marlene said quickly, but her voice had changed. Less steady now. I was discussing practical concerns with the doctor about long-term prognosis and realistic expectations. Aaron is taking a stressful moment completely out of context to justify what is clearly an emotional overreaction to routine business discussions. "Grant," I said quietly. He opened the folder and pulled out a small speaker, set it on the table. "This is a recording made in the hospital ICU on the day of Aaron's surgery. It has been transcribed by a certified court reporter and notarized. I'm playing it now for the record." He pressed play. Marlene's voice, clear and unmistakable, filled the conference room. "Aaron's medical expenses are already straining company resources. If the prognosis is uncertain, we need to consider whether aggressive intervention is the responsible choice." Dr. Holt's response, professional but increasingly cold. "Mrs. Cole, your father-in-law's condition is serious but treatable. We're talking about a routine procedure to address complications from his cardiac episode. Without it, he won't survive the week." Marlene again, no hesitation. "I understand that. But Aaron is 56. He's been working manual labor for decades. His body is worn down. We're a small company. These costs add up. He's a technician. We can hire another technician. What we can't afford is prolonged medical liability." The recording continued. Dr. Holt's refusal to comply. Marlene's insistence on being practical. Grant's arrival and confrontation. Every word. Every cold calculation. Every dismissive statement about my worth. When it ended, nobody moved. The silence was total. Tyler's face had gone completely white. He was staring at his wife like he'd never seen her before, like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. "That's my father," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "You told them not to save my father." "Tyler, you don't understand the context." "I understand perfectly." He stood up slowly, hands shaking. "I understand my wife stood in a hospital room and calculated whether my father's life was worth the expense. I understand she came home that night and told me she was worried about him. I understand everything was a lie. It wasn't a lie. I was worried. About the company, about our future, about the financial burden." "Our future," Tyler's voice cracked. "What future includes letting my father disappear because he's inconvenient? What future starts with that?" I held up a hand. "Tyler, sit down." He looked at me, eyes red, and slowly sat. His hands were still shaking. The room emptied slowly. Board members filed out quietly, some nodding at me, others avoiding eye contact. Shane paused at the door, gave me a short nod, and left. Tyler sat frozen at the far end of the table. Marlene stood beside him, face flushed, hands shaking. "Tyler," she said. "Tyler, we need to fight this. He's manipulating everyone, using old grudges to destroy what we built." "What you built," Tyler said flatly. "On his foundation, with his capital, his equipment, his systems, and you wanted to erase him." "I wanted to protect our future." "By talking about my father like he was broken equipment? By lying to investors? By removing him from his own company? Because he couldn't adapt, because he was stuck in the past." Tyler finally looked at her, really looked at her. He was stuck in the past because the past was when things were honest, when people said what they meant, when family meant something. "Family, he just destroyed us." "No, you did that. The day you stood in his hospital room and calculated whether saving his life was cost-effective." Marlene grabbed her bag and walked out without another word. Tyler stayed seated, staring at his hands. I walked over and sat beside him. "Dad, don't. I need to say this. Tyler, I don't want your apology. I want you to understand what just happened." He looked up at me. "You took control of the company." "I took back control. There's a difference. This company was built on trust, on partnership, on doing things right even when nobody was watching. Marlene forgot that. So did you." "I never wanted you gone." "But you let her try. You stood there while she erased me, and you told yourself it was for the company, for growth, for the future, but it was just easier than standing up to your wife." His jaw tightened. "What happens now?" "Now we rebuild. Properly. The way it should have been run all along." "And Marlene?" "Marlene is no longer part of this business. Her management position is terminated. If she wants to challenge that, she can hire a lawyer and file a complaint. But she has no equity stake, no ownership claim, and after today, no credibility." "She's still my wife." "Then you need to decide what that means for your role here, because I won't have someone in leadership who can't separate personal loyalty from professional responsibility." Tyler stood slowly. "I'll figure it out." "You do that?" He walked out, shoulders slumped. Grant started packing documents back into the folder. "Well," he said, "that went better than expected." "Did it?" "Nobody threw anything. Nobody called the police. Marlene's removed, your authority is reestablished, and the company survives. I'd call that a win. I looked around the conference room, at the table where we'd planned expansions, where we'd celebrated contracts, where I'd signed Tyler into partnership and thought I was building something that would last. It doesn't feel like winning, because you lost Tyler. I lost Tyler 3 years ago. I just didn't want to admit it. Grant nodded. What now? Now we run the company properly. Restore operational authority, hire a real COO who understands what ownership means, make sure this never happens again. And Tyler? Tyler keeps his equity stake. He's still my son, and he's still a co-owner, but he needs to prove he can be trusted before he gets operational authority back. That's fair. Fair is what we should have been all along. Grant left, and I sat alone in the conference room for a long time. Outside, I could hear the shop coming back to life, equipment running, people working, the normal sounds of a business continuing. My phone buzzed. Shane. Mr. Cole, just wanted to say, everyone's glad you're back in charge. Things got weird there for a while. Thanks, Shane. Also, a couple of the guys want to know if you'll be back on the floor. Not full-time, but yeah, I'll be around. Someone needs to make sure you're maintaining those systems properly. He laughed. Good. Place wasn't the same without you. I hung up and walked out to the factory floor. The crew saw me coming and stopped working. Just for a moment. Then they nodded, or waved, or gave me the quick acknowledgement of people who'd seen what happened and understood what it meant. I walked through the shop, checking systems, noting maintenance issues, talking to people who'd spent 3 years being told I didn't matter. By lunchtime, I was back in my corner workspace. Not the executive office Marlene had claimed, just my old space, with my tools and my equipment and my view of the factory floor. This was where I belonged, not in conference rooms playing political games, not in hospitals being dismissed as disposable. Here, making sure things ran properly, making sure people were treated with respect, making sure the company I'd built stayed true to what it was supposed to be. Grant called in the afternoon. Account transfer is complete. Everything's locked down tight. Marlene has no access to anything operational. Tyler's accounts are still active, but they can't move capital without your signature. Good. Send out notices to all department heads. Normal operations resume Monday. Any questions come through me directly until we hire a real COO. Already done. Also, I got a call from Marlene's attorney. They're threatening a wrongful termination suit. Let them. Discovery will be fun. We have recordings, documents, witness testimony. She can't win that fight. That's what I told them. They'll probably settle for a severance package. Couple months' salary, confidentiality agreement. No confidentiality agreement. She can say whatever she wants about what happened. Truth is on our side. Bold move. I'm done playing careful. She wanted to erase me? Fine. Let's see how she does when everyone knows exactly what she tried to do. I hung up and sat in my corner, watching the shop run like it always had. Competent people doing good work, no drama, no politics, just the steady rhythm of building things that lasted. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. Dad, I'm taking a few days off. Need to figure some things out. Take whatever time you need. I know I messed up. I know I should have seen what was happening. Tyler, you saw it. You just chose not to act. That's worse than not seeing. Silence. Then, yeah, it is. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here, but not as your father, as your business partner, because that's the relationship we need to fix. I understand. He hung up. I sat in my workshop corner as afternoon faded into evening, watched the crew finish their shifts and head home, listened to the machines power down, felt the building settle into quiet. Everything I'd built was still here, still functioning, still real, and Marlene Shaw, who'd stood in a hospital room and calculated whether my life was worth saving, was gone. Not destroyed, not ruined, just gone, removed, erased from the company she'd tried to control, the same way she'd tried to erase me. I locked up and walked to my truck. The parking lot was empty except for my vehicle and one other, Tyler's. He was sitting on the tailgate, waiting. I thought you left, I said. I did. Then I came back. Why? Because I needed to ask you something, and I needed to ask it here, not at home or over the phone. All right. He slid off the tailgate and faced me square. Did you do this because you wanted revenge, or because it was right? I thought about the question, about the 3 weeks since I'd woken up and heard Marlene's voice discussing my worth, about every small humiliation, every erasure, every time I'd been treated like disposable labor in the company I'd founded. Both, I said honestly. I wanted revenge for what she did, and it was right to remove her for how she operated. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Tyler nodded slowly. Can we fix this? You and me? I don't know. Can you work with someone who destroyed your wife's career? Can you work with someone who let his wife try to destroy yours? We stood there in the empty parking lot, two men who shared family ties, business, and not much else anymore. We'll see, I said. Day by day, decision by decision. You earn back trust the same way you lose it. Slowly. That's fair. Fair is all I'm offering. He got in his truck and drove away. I sat in mine for a long time, keys in the ignition, engine off. Tomorrow, the shop would open like always. People would come to work, equipment would run, the business would continue, and I'd be there. Not as a victim, not as someone who'd been pushed aside, as the owner, the way it should have been all along,